Last week we spoke about the different types of lesions, the intensity of the whiteness in terms of what characteristics it has to be classified as a leprous lesion. It was a black hair, the hair turned white. It was in the area with his hair, the face, the head, it turned gold. Various things. The garments, there was a discoloration on the garment. Now we're speaking about the recovery, how one recovers. One finally recovers from his leper state. He's been outside the camp. He's been this pariah in solitude, not being permitted to associate with anyone all these days or weeks or years. V'yedaber Hashem Moshe Lemor, Zos Toras, Zos Tia Toras HaMetzorah. This should be the laws pertaining to the Metzorah, Biyom Taroso, on the day that he is purified. Vuvel HaKohen, on the day of his purification, he's brought to the Kohen. So Rashi over here cites the Torah Kahanim. The Torah says, Biyom Taroso. Malame che mitarnos balaylo. The Kohen cannot pronounce him pure at nighttime. It has to be a daytime procedure. This evaluation and pronouncement has to be during the daytime, not at nighttime. We've mentioned that regarding the law of atonement, kochim, the slaughtering of the sacrifice has to be done during the daytime, because Torah speaks in regard to korbanos biyom zivcho, on the day that it's slaughtered. And then the Torah speaks about the blood ritual of the korban, the receiving of the blood, the transferring of the blood towards the mizbeach, and the sprinkling of blood has to be done during the daytime. It cannot be done at nighttime. I mentioned the Mishnah tells us if the Kohen slaughtered during the day, he received the blood, transported to the mizbeach, was about to sprinkle, then sundown comes, the korban can no longer be brought. The blood ritual has to be completed during the daytime period. Cannot be done at nighttime period. The reinstatement of the Metzorah to begin the purification, the evaluation that he's Tor, Biyom Toroso, Malame che metaros balayla. The pronouncement cannot be at nighttime. Has to be during the daytime. We find initially the Kohen, when he sees the nega, also, it has to be under natural light. It cannot be artificial light. It has to be during the daytime period. Now the question is, why does it have to be done during the daytime period? Night doesn't qualify. It's Biyom Taroso. We'll see in a moment. We'll see in a moment. Over here, the Rechaim HaKodesh cites the Midrash, that the Midrash says, firstly it says, the cites Yerushalmi, firstly, he says, what does it have to say? This is the law of the Metzorah. It should say immediately, Ki yitar ha-Metzorah. When the Metzorah begins his purification process, he's brought to the Kohen. What is Zos Torah ha-Metzorah? This is the Torah of the Metzorah. So it's Torah's Kadam Dorshu Teva Zos Lemai Tyrus ha-Metzorah Bebama. That the Metzorah cannot be pronounced pure, and the whole process in a bama. What's a bama? A bama is one builds a mizbeach at a time when you were permitted to build a mizbeach on your rooftop in your backyard. It did not have to be brought in the Beis Hamikdash. For instance, there were times Nova Givon, or a time where bamos were permitted. Closer were Nov, there was a city, Novir Kohanim, and Givon. Shiloh was a bummer. What determines whether something's a bum or not? If the Aron is in its location, that's called the Mizbeach. If the Mizbeach, if the Aron is not in its location, it's classified as a bummer. When we finally came to the Beis Hamikdash, and the Beis Hamikdash was built, regardless if the Aron's there or not, one is not permitted to build a private Mizbeach, which is called bummer. For instance, during the second temple period, Beis Hamikdash, the Aron was not there. The Aron was hidden away during the first Beis Hamikdash temple period. Nevertheless, one was not permitted to build a private Mizbeach wherever he chose to build it. But there were times they were. What is the determining factor? So it's explained that the only time the Shekhinah is in its location is only when the Aron was there. As it says in the Torah, Hashem says, I will see you between the cherubs. If the Aron's there, the Shekhinah is there. The Aron's not there, it's not there. However, in the Beis Hamikdash, Kodesh Baruch Hu says, that is called Nachla. Once you come to the Nachla, the Shekhinah is there regardless whether the Aron is there or not there. So when the Shekhinah is in its location, where do you bring the Korban? In the location where the Shekhinah, where the divine presence is. Why? Because the Torah tells us when you bring a Korban, it has to be Lifnei Hashem. It has to be before God. A Bama, meaning if the Aron's not in its location and it's not the Beis Hamikdash, it's not Lifnei Hashem. When it's not Lifnei Hashem, you can't bring the Korban Lifnei Hashem, then you bring it even on a private Mizbeach. Once it's Lifnei Hashem, which is the Beis Hamikdash, even if the Aron is lacking, like during the second temple period, you are not permitted to build your own Mizbeach. You want to bring a Korban, you bring it Lifnei Hashem, one brings it in the Beis Hamikdash. Now, we're saying that the purification of the Metzorah can only be done when on a Mizbeach. A Bama, it doesn't work. So evidently, the Korban you bring to bring about the full reinstatement of the Metzorah, it has to be Lifnei Hashem. He has to be reinstated with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a re-entry. We explained that why does the Metzorah, we explained this last week, why does the leper, why is it outside of all three camps? All three camps? We explained, based as the Rambam says, in regard to Haparish bin Atzibor, one who separates himself from Klal Yisrael, and he says, their problems are their problems, my problems are my problems, their successes are their successes, my successes are my successes, and he keeps the Torah in its entirety. But in terms of identification, he identifies himself not as part of Klal Yisrael. Rambam says in Hilchos Yisodei HaTorah, in the fundamentals of Torah, that's called Parish min Atzibor ein lo chelek l'mabo. That individual has no share in the world to come. So we had asked if he's keeping the Torah's entirety just because he sees himself not as part of Klal Yisrael, he believes in the 13 Yud Gimel Ikrei Amunah and everything, puts on tefillin, observes Shabbos, kashrus, Yom Kippur, everything. But because he doesn't see himself as part of Klal Yisrael, he has no share in the world to come. So we explained was that whenever we speak about kores, which is a very extreme level of liability, if one eats on Yom Kippur, one engaged in certain forbidden sexual relations, one eats chalev, it all carries the liability of kores. The Torah says you're excised. Kores means you're cut off. Whenever it speaks about kores, it says v'nichrasa hanefesh hahi me'amo or me'ameho. The soul is cut off from its people. Or v'nichrasa shehi miYisrael, it's cut off from Yisrael. But if excision means you're cut off from God, why whenever we speak about kores, does the Torah always refer to the person being cut off from Yisrael or from its people? So we had explained was, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not have a relationship with individuals as individuals. If you're part of Klal Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a relation with Klal Yisrael. If you're part of Klal Yisrael, he has a relation with you. If you excise from Klal Yisrael, then he has no relationship with you. That's kores. Therefore, the person who's Parish min Atzibor, the one who separates himself, he doesn't see himself as part of the Jewish people, and he wants to be individualized as a separate entity, because Olam Haba is having a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And since he sees himself not as part of Klal Yisrael, automatically God will not have a relation with him. And that's why Elohim Babo. That's the understanding in the Rambam. This person over here, because he became a leper, he spoke Lashon Hara at a very extreme level. Hashem says, you're out of all three camps. You're not part of the Klal Yisrael any longer, although you were a Jew. So as a result of that, what does he need for a full reinstatement when he brings his korban? He needs Lifnei Hashem. He has to be brought back to the Shechina. He's been cut off from the Shechina. He has to be brought back. Just coming back into the camp is not enough. To be eligible, to come back as part of Klal Yisrael, the korban, the atonement has to be Lifnei Hashem. When it's Lifnei Hashem, then you're fully reinstated. And therefore, that's what the Torah's Kanim says, that we speak about Torah's Habitzorah, just as all other korbanos have to be Lifnei Hashem. And if it's on the Boma, it doesn't qualify as an atonement korban. Identically here, for the reinstatement, he has to be Lifnei Hashem, and therefore, bringing the korban on the Boma is not sufficient. Okay, so let's talk now. We're speaking, it says Biyom. So Biyom tells us it cannot be brought at nighttime. Only during the daytime period. As I said, Kapara, which is through the slaughtering and through the sprinkling of blood, that's the Kapara. The concept of Kapara is Midas HaRachmim. Midas HaRachmim is only during the daytime. Night represents Midas Adin. Over here, this man needs serious Rachmim. As we said, the Tsaraz is not a physical, just a physical deficiency in the person, and therefore it's a degenerative type of disease here. It's purely a tag on him, which indicates, as we'll see in a moment, why is he called Mitzorah? He quotes the Midrash. Zos Torah shel Motzi Shemra. The word Mitzorah is a acronym Motzi Shemra, because he spoke negatively about another Jew. That's why it's referred to Mitzorah. Motzi Shemra. He expressed something negative about another Jew. That's the reason why he became a Mitzorah. Okay? To recover from this, you need a special spiritual reinstatement. That's Rachmim. Rachmim is bayom. It's daytime, not nighttime. As the blood ritual of Kapora cannot be done at nighttime, because night is not Midas HaRachmim, and the whole concept of Korban is the attribute of Rachmim. Identically, the Mitzorah to be reinstated, every aspect of that protocol and procedure to reinstate him is Midas HaRachmim. Therefore, it's Zos Toras HaMitzorah, B'yom Toroso. It's during the daytime, because he's a Motzi Shemra. Because he spoke, he expressed something which is negative. And Kapora is only during daytime, not at nighttime. It's interesting, we find that we have Tomid Shel Shachar, and we have Tomid Shel Bein Arbayim. We have the morning communal offering, and the closing communal offering, which is the afternoon communal offering. After that, one does bring another. Once Shkia comes, one cannot bring another korban. What do you do at nighttime? How is the Mizbeach occupied at nighttime? The limbs and the fats that were not burnt during the daytime on the Mizbeach, that you burn at nighttime. Now, the burning of the limbs of fats, that is not the essential kapara. That brings the kapara to the full extent, to be a complete level of atonement. But the main atonement, even if one does not sacrifice the fats and the limbs, the person has kapara. Because the kapara, the blood, basically brought about that level of reinstatement. That's kapara. The person's already atoned. We find that the court, the Sanhedrin, a Bezdin is not permitted to convene during the nighttime. It's only during the daytime. At nighttime, The court cannot. However, there's a halacha that if the court already was adjudicating, and they had to give the Gemar Din, the Gemara says they had to give the verdict the nighttime, they're permitted to give the verdict. As long as the main deliberations were during the daytime, the Gemar Din is at nighttime. They can have it at nighttime. Now, what is, as we discussed, what is judgment on the terrestrial level? That's Midas HaRachmim. Because God says, if there's justice on the terrestrial level, there's no divine justice. So that Hashem allows the judges to adjudicate, and we being subject to human justice, of course it's within the context of the Torah, that's Rachmim. Divine justice is what? Is exactness, that's Midas Hadin. Whenever you have Midas HaRachmim in place, Midas HaRachmim is only during the daytime, because they represent the attribute of Rachmim. Therefore, the court cannot convene at nighttime, only during the daytime. However, if they already had deliberated and adjudicated the case, the verdict, since mainly it was during the daytime, therefore they were able to give the final decision at nighttime.